Welcome to the channel, guys. Today I'm going to teach you how to factorize. Okay, so let's start with learning how to take out a common factor from an expression. Okay, so we use this method of factorizing, like the taking out the common factor, when you are given an expression that has a common variable or a number in its terms. So what do I mean by this? So for example, if I have an expression like ax plus bx plus cx, okay, so what is common in this expression, like in all of these terms here? What is common? The common variable is x, so I'm going to write it down. Then to get the terms inside the brackets, you have to divide the original term by the common factor to get the new one here. So what do I mean by that statement? I mean, if I go back to the original one, I'm going to take my ax, then divide it by the common factor here. Then my x will take this one, then I'll be left with a. So which means my new term here is going to be a plus, I do the same thing for b. I take my bx, I divide it by the x, then I get the b. That would be my second term here. So it's a plus b plus c. If you do the working out here, you're going to divide by x, the x will take the x, then you're left with c, which will be your answer here. So that is how you factorize by taking out a common factor. You take out a number or a variable that is common in each of your terms in the original expression or an equation, depending on which ones they gave you. And also, guys, this is very vital. After you get your answer, I will strongly advise you to simplify it. And when you do simplify your answer, it should bring you back here. So that is done to confirm if you have factorized correctly or not. So for example, if we multiply the x by the a here, we're going to get ax. Then if we multiply the x by the b here, we're going to get plus bx. Then if we multiply the c by if I multiply the x by the c here, I should be getting cx. Okay, so let me do it here so that I show you what I'm saying. So after you've done factorizing, you have to simplify this, then bring you back to the top. So this is gonna be this, then x multiplied by b, it's plus bx, including the sign, don't forget that. Then you take the x here, multiplied by the c there, it's plus cx. That is my final answer. So therefore, this simply means that I have factorized correctly. So this step is done to confirm, like I said, to confirm your answers. It's done it is done. You can do it separately from your working. Like if you're doing a test, if you're writing a test, you factorize by taking out a common factor. Then after factorizing on your question paper or a piece of paper or scrap paper, you simplify this, then it should bring you back to the original one. If it doesn't, then it means you may have done a mistake here, then you should look into it. Okay guys, that is an extra tip that I just gave now. So let me do another example. Okay, so in this case, in this example, I'm gonna take 2x plus 2y. So here the common factor is 2. Okay, the number here, x and y are not the same, so we cannot consider x or a y as a common factor, though 2 appears on both terms, so therefore it is a common factor. So we're going to take out 2 here, we're going to open up our brackets. Remember, to get the correct terms here, you take your common factor, or you take the original term, you divide it by the common factor. So it's going to take 2x divided by the 2. 2 will take 2, then you're left with x. So we're going to have x here plus, we're going to do the same for y. You're going to take the 2y, you divide it by 2. The 2 takes the 2, you're left with y. So here, so it's 2 into x plus y. And again, to confirm, this is where it ends. But to confirm if you have it correctly, then you can do it on your side. You're going to take your simplified equation or expression, depending, and then you simply multiply it. So you're going to take the 2, multiply it by the x, then the 2 multiplied by the positive y there, so it's plus 2y. Then this is the same as that one, so therefore it means I have factorized it correctly. Okay guys, okay, so now let's move on to another example, the last example under common factors. So in this example, we're going to have 2x squared minus 4xy. So here we're going to take out a common factor. Okay, the first factor which is common or appears in both here is going to be x, because if you actually break up this 2x squared, it's going to be something like 2xx. Okay, so x, so this is the same as this one. These are the same. Okay, so in this case, I'm going to take out x as a common factor. Okay, but I'm not done, as I see another number that appears both here, that can appear both here, which is 2. Why do I say that? Because 2 goes into 2 once, obviously, then 2 also goes into 4 twice. 2 is a common factor of 4, therefore it can be considered a common factor in this expression. Okay, so it's 2x, or if you want to break it down like this one here, I can do it. So that is the same as 2 times 2 times x times y. This, there guys, this. So here, as you can see from here, 2 appears, x appears, hence we have 2x. Okay, so we're going to take out the 2x as a common factor. Then if you divide 2x squared divided by 2x, the 2 takes the 2. Remember guys, to get the terms inside the brackets, you divide the original expression by the common factor. Each term you divide by the common factor. So here the 2x squared will divide the 2x, so 2 goes into 2 once, so they cancel each other out. Then it's x squared over x. Remember guys, this is the quotient rule from the exponent rule. When you have a quotient, the exponents simply subtract. So you're going to have 2x to the power 2 minus 1, which is x to the power 1, which is x. So here we're going to have x minus, then we're going to take the 4xy divided by 2x. So x goes into x1, so they cancel. Then it's 4 divided by 2, which will give you 2. Then you drop the y. Then you are done. Okay, but remember, on your piece of paper or a scrap paper during your test or exam, you will also simplify this. You simplify it, so it's 2x into x minus 2y. Okay, so this looks a little bit, it's a little untidy. So you're going to simplify this on your scrap paper, and when you simplify it, it should bring you back to the original expression. This is done to confirm your answer, to see if you've done it correctly or not. Okay, so I'm going to multiply this by this by this. Okay, so it's 2x. When you multiply these, it's going to bring you to 2x squared. Okay, then it's minus 2x, sorry, it's 2x multiplied by minus 2y, which will bring you to minus 4xy. Okay, so therefore this means that I have factorized correctly. Okay guys, so if you did not understand this concept, try watching the video again. Try to understand step by step. Then if you still don't understand, you can comment down below and I'll do a separate video explaining the common factor. Okay, so let's move on to a second method of factorizing, which is a perfect square. Not a perfect square. Okay, so when do we factorize? So what are the conditions for us to use a perfect square to factorize? Yeah, so the first condition is the two terms that are involved in an expression should be perfect squares, because you'll use this method when you have two terms in an expression or an equation, depending on which you have been given. Okay, what do I mean by that? Each term has to be a perfect square. So for example, when you put that term under a square root, it gives you a whole number. Okay, not a number that has, not a fraction or a number that has a decimal. It should give you a whole number. That's what a perfect square is. When you put that number in a square root or under a square root, it should give you a whole number. Okay, so for example, let me use a variable, for example, x squared. If you put it under a variable, if you use the laws of exponents, remember by default a square root is to the power 1 over 2. So x2 multiplied by 1 over 2. So 2 multiplied by half is equals to 1, s to the power 1, which is equals to x. So x squared is what you can consider a perfect square. Okay, so now when we get into numbers, a number like 4 is also considered a perfect square, because if you break down 4, it's 2 to the power 2. If you put it under a square root, it's going to give you a whole number by 1 over 2, which is 2 to the power 1 and is equals to 2. So 4 is a perfect square. Same with 16. If you put that number under a square root, it's going to give you a whole number, which is 4. Same with 9. If you do the same, it's going to bring you a 3. Then even if you take the square root of 64, it's going to give you a 8. Okay, so that's when you use a perfect square. When both the terms in the expression or equation are a perfect square. Remember guys, are a perfect square. Okay, I'm going to show you below with the examples I'm going to use. Okay, so for example, before I continue, another rule or another condition for you to use a perfect square to factorize, remember the first one is that both terms have to be a perfect square. Write it down. Then the second rule is one of the terms in that expression has to be a negative. Okay, so one of the terms has to be a negative, because as I've mentioned above, after you're done factorizing, you simplify your answer, then it should bring you back to the original expression. Okay, so I'm gonna make an example in order to shed light into this rule that I just made. So here we're going to have, so remember I said the second rule is one of the terms has to be a negative. So I'm going to show you what will happen if all terms are positive. Okay, so here the condition is met. Ne? On your left side, the condition is met. This side here, on your left. So remember, I said both terms have to be perfect squares. So as x squared is already a perfect square, as we mentioned here, so it's going to be a first term in each of the brackets. So when you solve using a perfect square, you open up two brackets, ne? Then the first term in the original, when you punch in your calculator, then you put this under the square roots, then the value that you're going to get, they're going to represent the first terms in each of the brackets. I hope I made sense there. Okay, so since this is the first term here, they're going to be the first term here and here respectively. Okay, then second, we're going to take this term, put it under the square root. So it's going to give me y. It's going to give me y. Okay, then the sign is always negative and positive, or positive and negative. It doesn't matter how you put it. You can put it in different order. I can put a positive here and a negative here, but the signs have to be different when you're factorizing using a perfect square. Okay, guys. So then, now that we've done simplifying, now that we've done factorizing this, we're going to simplify it on the side. Then it should bring us back here to the top. Né? So let's take this, simplify. So remember, we multiply this with this with this. So here, so it's x times x squared. X times positive y, it's positive xy. Negative y multiplied by the positive x, it's negative xy. Then negative y multiplied by positive y, it's negative y squared. Okay, so remember, these guys are the same, but they have different signs, so therefore they cancel each other out. Then you're going to be left with x squared minus y squared. So what does it show? It does show us that we did factorize correctly in the above by following the rules of a perfect square. Okay, so now let me show you if one of the conditions is not met. Remember, two conditions. The terms involved have to be perfect squares, meaning if put under a square root, they should give you a whole number. Then the second condition is one of the terms has to be a negative. Okay, so in this case, there's no negative term, all terms are positive. So let's try factorizing it using the perfect square. So I'm going to do the same, put the x squared under the square roots. So we're going to have x here, then it's going to be y, it's going to be y, then it's plus minus. So you factorize this. Ne? So now remember what I said, when you get your answer, you have to simplify it so that it brings you back to the original expression. If it does not bring you back here, it means you've done something incorrectly. Okay, so let's do it, guys. So here we're going to have the x squared plus xy minus xy minus y squared. Okay, so this takes this, since the signs are opposite, but the terms are the same but different signs, so they're going to cancel each other out. Then you have x squared minus y squared. Okay, which shows us that if the conditions are not met, then you cannot use the perfect square rule here. Okay, so since this was a plus, you are not going to factorize it, you're going to leave it as it is. Ne? You'll only you only use the perfect square when the terms involved are perfect squares and also one of the terms is a negative. So for example, even if this was put in a sense, like for example this way, minus y squared plus x squared, you can still use the perfect square rule since one of these terms is a negative. What you will simply do here is you'll rearrange it to look like this. Instead of beginning your next step with y, you can simply say x squared minus y squared. You did not change anything in this case. The x squared still remains a positive here, then the negative y squared still drops down as it is. Okay, so guys, this is a very important concept to grasp, so I hope that you have grasped it fully. Okay guys, so let's move on with the examples. I'm gonna do another example using the perfect square. Okay, so I'm still trying to look onto my sheet. Okay, so now we have x squared minus 4. So remember, you open up two brackets when you are using the perfect square. Then you put this under the square root. It's going to give you x and x. Okay, then you put your 4 under the square root. It's going to give you a 2 and a 2. Okay? Then your signs should be different. It's always plus negative or negative plus. It doesn't matter how you put your signs, as long as it is different signs. Okay? Then also, when you're done, remember to simplify this. Then when you're done simplifying it, it'll bring you back here. Okay, guys? So I'm hoping that was clear. I don't want to make this video long. I'm trying to keep it short. So let me do a third example, the last example, and the perfect square. So if you like, I can also do a video doing all types of this factorizing like separately and explain in depth. So yeah, so here we have this expression here. So same method, we're gonna open two brackets, then after put this under a square root. 4 under a square root is gonna give you a 2. So we're gonna bring down your 2. X squared under the square root, gonna bring you an x, then you do the same for the other term. 9 under a square root is gonna give you a 3. It's gonna give you a 3. Then y under the square root is gonna give you a y. It's gonna give you a y. Okay. Then signs, remember, same, plus, minus, or minus, plus, doesn't matter. This is how it's done. You simplify it, it should bring you back here. So let me do it on this side. So let me do it here. So this is your final answer, ne? The next step, you do it on your piece of paper or your answer, no, not your answer sheet, your question paper, in order to prove that you've done it correctly. Okay, so I'm gonna take this, multiply. When you multiply this, it's gonna bring you 4x squared. So 2 times 2 is 4. X multiplied by x, it's x squared. So then you do the same for this. So it's minus 6xy. Then you do the same for this one. It's plus 3y. So it's gonna be plus 3. Sorry, it's plus 6xy, since it's 3 multiplied by 2, 3y multiplied by 2x. Then the same here, 9y squared. These are the same, but your signs are different, so it's 0. They cancel each other out. Then you'll be left with 4x squared minus 9y squared. So this is done to confirm this, if you've factorized it correctly or not. Okay, guys, I hope that was clear. Remember, always check your final answer. Always check it. If it's not identical to the original expression, it means a mistake was done somewhere. Then you need to revisit your math, your working, to detect your mistakes or any wrongdoing that you may have done or possibly done. Okay, so now I'm going to teach you another method to factorize. So this one is called a perfect cube, which is quite rare in exams. That's what I've come to notice, but I'll also teach it, just facilitate it. Okay, so what do we have here? A perfect cube. What are the conditions here? There's only like one condition in order to use this, is that the expression, in an expression, the terms involved should be a perfect cube, meaning if you put it under a cube root, it should give you a whole number. So for example, something like x cubed, if you put it under a cube root, it should bring you, remember guys, this is a cube root, so my n is equals to 3. Yeah, so it's x into 3 multiplied by 1 over 3, which is equals to x. So x cubed is a perfect cube. So another example would be, okay, let me use 27. This is the perfect cube. If you plug this under your calculator, it's going to give you 3. Or we can also do its work. You can also work it out manually. So it's 3 to the power 3. You can express it this way. Then it's 3 to the power 3 all over. Oh, sorry, 3 to the power 3 all to the power 1/3. Okay. Then this can be written down this way. 3 to the power 1, which is equals to 3. or you can just simply punch it into a calculator. It's still going to give you 3. Okay, so same here, 27 cube root of 8, punch it in a calculator, it's going to give you 2. So the terms involved should be a perfect cube. Okay, then so now let me just do a quick example to show you what I mean. So here I'm going to have x cube minus 8. So remember, with the perfect square, I said one of the conditions was that one of the terms has to be a negative. Well, in this case, that's not necessary. Well, both terms can be negative, both terms can be a positive. Okay, so I'm going to show you an example with an all positive cube root. Okay, so this is how you're going to do it. So you're going to open up a small bracket, ne? Then you're going to open up a longer one. Then after doing this, you're going to put this under a cube root in your calculator. It's going to give you x. Okay, you take the original sign for the first bracket. Guys, listen carefully here. You need to listen carefully. You're going to put this under a cube root. It's going to give you an x. Then you take the sign, the original sign, you drop it down for your first bracket. Then you're going to put this under your calculator. It's a cube root of 8 is going to give you 2. Okay, then from here, listen carefully. For the first term, you're going to square this term here. So for the first term in your bigger bracket, you're going to square the first term. So it's going to be x squared. Okay, then this second step, this step is vital. Your sign here is the opposite of the original expression. The sign is opposite. So for example, if you have a negative here, it's going to be a positive. If I had a positive here, it was going to be a negative. Okay, so here is a very vital step. The sign is always the opposite of the sign of the original term. Okay, then to get the second term in this bigger brackets, you will simply multiply these two here. You'll simply multiply them. So it's x multiplied by 2, which will give you 2x. Okay, then for your last term, the sign is always positive. For your last term, the sign is always positive. So I'm going to put a positive there. Then you square this term, which will give you 4. Okay, then you're done. We have factorized it. You have factorized it. Okay, then in order to show you're working, to show that you have worked it out correctly, I'm going to multiply everything here by everything here. Okay, remember, if you don't know how to do that, watch a video before this, if I'm not mistaken, because I did upload a video on how to multiply a binomial by a trinomial. Okay, so I want to do it here. I want to leave it as it is. So here you multiply this, you multiply by this, you also multiply by that. So x multiplied by x squared is going to be x cubed. X multiplied by 2x, it's plus 2x squared. Then x multiplied by 4 is going to be plus 4x. Then here, now we here multiply everything here, there, and there. Okay, so it's minus 2 multiplied by x squared is negative 2x squared. Then you do the same. Negative 2 multiplied by positive 2x, it's minus 4x. Then you do the same for the last term, which is going to be minus 8. Minus 2 multiplied by positive 4 is going to be minus 8. Then you collect your like terms. So this is my like term, this is my like term, this is my like term, this is my like term. Okay, so here I'm gonna drop the x cube. Then this cancels this because they are the same, but the signs are different. Okay, so these are canceling out because they equate to 0, and same goes for these ones. Minus 4x plus 4x is equals to 0, so they cancel each other out. Then I'm gonna drop the negative 8 here as it is. Voila, this is identical to to this, so which means I have factorized it correctly. So remember, when you're factorizing this, you open up two brackets, a small one and a bigger one, né? Then to get these values for the first small bracket, you simply put the original term under a cube root. So cube root of x cubed is going to be x. Take the sign as it is, minus cube root of 8 is 2. Put it on your calculator. It's going to give you 2. Close bracket. Then for the bigger one, the first term, you square the first term. You multiply the term by itself. So it's x multiplied by x. It's going to give you x squared. Okay? Then the sign is opposite this one or this one. Okay? It's opposite, so it's a positive. Then for the second term, you'll simply multiply these two. So it's x multiplied by 2 to get here. Then the sign here is always positive. It is always positive. It doesn't change. It's always positive. So it's plus, then the 2, you square the 2, you'll get the 4. And that's how you factorize using the perfect cube. So let me do the last example, or the second last example. Remember, I said I'm going to show you using different. Okay, this is 8. This is 8, guys. Then let me write it. Hey, the eraser on this thing. Okay, it's x cubed plus. Okay, let me try. So remember, we're opening up two brackets, ne? So we're gonna have x plus 2. Remember, put this under a cube root and this under a cube root. This is what I get. The sign remains. You don't change the sign here. You drop the original one. Then for the first term, I square this term. So it's x multiplied by x. It's x squared. Then the sign is opposite the original one. So here I'm going to have a negative. Then I multiply these. 2x. Then the sign here is always positive. Then I square this. It's going to give me 4. Okay, guys. This is how we do it. This is how you do it. Okay. So yeah, on your piece of paper there, if you're watching with a book, you should really write down what I'm saying, because I'm giving you a scope. If most of you know what that is, a scope. So on your piece of paper, simplify this following the rules of multiplying a binomial by a trinomial. Then it should bring you back here. Okay. So for number 3, let me do a bit complex one, because they may give you something like this. Let's use a negative y cube. This is what they love. This is how they want to pose it most of the time. So remember, do not be scared. Don't panic. Remember the principles and you will be fine. So what are the principles? Put this 27 under the cube root in your calculator. You put 27 cube root of 27 is going to be 3. So you're going to put it down. 3 cube root of x cube is x. Okay, take the sign as it is. That is 2. Cube root of 8 is 2. Then cube root of y cubed is y. Okay, then for the first term here in a larger bracket, you square this one, ne? You square it, meaning 3 squared is going to give you 9. Then x squared, or x multiplied by x, yeah, it's going to give you x squared basically. Then remember the sign is negative, so here it's going to be a positive. Then you multiply these two. So x3 multiplied by 2 is 6. X multiplied by y is y. X, y. Then the sign here is always positive. Okay, then you square the last term. So it's 2 squared, which is 4y squared. 2 squared is 4, multiplied by y is y squared. Okay, so if it's not visible, then you're done factorizing it using the perfect cube. So you can, like I always say, check to see if I've done it correctly. So let me check it here on the side. Okay, I'm going to check this one with you because it's a little bit complicated. But as long as you follow the principles, guys, you can solve any math expression or equation by using perfect cube. Like the perfect cube equations, you can solve any, even if they give you large numbers. Just follow the steps that I've given you, you'll be fine. Trust me. Trust me. So remember, okay, so 3x multiplied by 9x squared is 27x cubed. 3x multiplied by minus 6xy is equals to, or it's negative. Remember, the sign here is negative, so it's negative 6x squared y. Ne? Then you multiply this again, this positive 3x multiplied by the positive y, sorry, by the positive 4y squared. So it's gonna bring me plus 12xy squared. You do the same for this term. So you multiply so it's 18x squared y okay guys, okay, I made a mistake. I wrote the equation incorrectly. I made a mistake. So my mistake here was I put a negative instead of a positive. If you can rewind the video like a bit, I'm sure you'll have seen that I had a negative here. It should be a positive, because here on my original answer I have a positive 6xy. So done it incorrectly. And also guys, avoid making such mistakes. Ne? Avoid making such mistakes. But if you practice your maths, if you practice it, you are most likely to spot your mistakes earlier before you continue. Okay, so now let me look left, look right. Everything is correct. So we're gonna try it again. This time we're gonna start here. As you saw that I was running out of space. So it's 27x cubed here. Then this one, it's plus 18x squared y. Then this multiplied by the last one is plus 12xy squared. We do the same here. It's minus 18x squared y. Remember guys, this, ne? To get this, we multiply this by this. Then we're going to multiply this by that. We're going to get minus 12xy squared. Then minus 2 multiplied by positive 4, it's negative 8y cubed. Okay, so now we collect our like terms. This is my like terms here. This is also my like terms here. Okay, so it's equals to 0. It's equals to 0. So we are left with 27x cubed minus 8y cubed. So therefore, which shows that my working here is correct. Then you can relax, move on to the next question, knowing that you've secured your 4 marks, your 2 or 3 marks, depending on the mark allocation here. So as you saw guys, even though we do know we do understand maths, we also tend to make mistakes, as I did make it here. And I'm not going to edit it out. I'm not going to edit out the mistakes I make. I'm going to show you everything. I'm going to be as transparent as possible. We also do make mistakes, but then what makes us to be able to spot them quickly is the practice that we put in maths. Like we practice. If you keep practicing every day, preferably, not just practicing for 3 hours. I'm not saying you should practice maths every day and ignore other subjects. Even like that 30 minutes, just practice whatever that you've learned in class, then trust me, in future you are most likely to spot your mistakes early, as you saw how I did here. Okay, so guys, that's how you factorize using the perfect cube. Okay, so now let's move. Okay guys, now I'm going to show you how to factorize using trinomials. So yeah, okay, we're gonna do different kinds. So firstly, we're going to do when my a is equals to 1. What do I mean by that? Well, you know that a trinomial in a standard form is ax squared plus bx plus c. Okay, so we're going to learn how to factorize trinomials when the value here is equals to 1, a positive 1. Okay, so if we have this expression, for example, to factorize this is plus 2. Okay, so I'm also going to show you like the tips on what to look out for and how to solve these quickly. So firstly, to factorize this, you open up two brackets. Okay, so usually, okay, listen carefully, when your a is equals to 1, your first terms in each of these brackets becomes x and x, depending on which variable you were given here. So for example, if you are given a p squared plus 3p plus 2, then your terms here will be p and p. Okay guys, hold that concept, hold it. So when a is equals to 1, you do this, it's x and x. Done. Then for the second terms here, you're going to look for factors of 2. You have to allocate factors of 2. So the factors you allocate here are those numbers that when you add or you subtract, they should give you the middle term. So for example, the factors of 2 is 2 and 1 and 2, depending on whatever order you put them. So it's 2 and 1. So if you add these two, they give you a 3. Then if you subtract, they give you a 1. So already, since these factors, when you add them, they give us a 3, which means we are able to use them. So you can put them either way. You can put them here, 2 1 or 1 2, depends on you. Then the crucial part is assigning the signs or the symbols. Okay, so in this case, if you look into your original expression, if you look, then every sign or everything is a positive. It makes your life easy. It also means here everything becomes a positive. Okay, if everything is a positive here, like above on the example, then everything here also becomes a positive. Okay guys, so the crucial part about factorizing this kind of equation is finding the correct factors here, that when you add or subtract, they give you the value of the middle term. Okay, so in order to further confirm if I factorize correctly, remember, you're gonna take it as it is on your piece of paper, then you multiply. So it's x squared plus x plus 2x plus 2. So these are your like terms. You add them, they give you 3x plus, you drop this as it is, it's x squared, you drop that, it's 2. So we did prove that it's correct. So we move on with our life. You are happy, you get your 3 marks, you move on. So now moving on to the second example. So now, second example, I'm going to use a different sign here, because there's like these tips I want to give, they're really going to help you out, guys. Trust me, in terms of giving signs, they will help you out. So let me write this down. So remember, guys, it applies when your a is equals to 1, a being the number before the number assigned to the x squared variable. So here we have x squared minus 10x. Is it plus 9? I think so. I think it'll work like that. It's plus 9. The point I'm trying to make is, okay, so it is recording. Okay, this. So remember, we're doing the same thing. We are going to open up two brackets. Since my a is equals to 1, drop down xx. Okay, then now you have to look for factors of 9, whereby when you add or you subtract, they give you a 10. So firstly, you can use 9 and 1. Also, there's 3 and 3. When you multiply 9 times 1, you get a 9. When you multiply 3 times 3, you also get a 9. Okay, so remember guys, here we're looking for factors. We do not square this number. We're looking for factors that when you add or subtract, they give you the middle term, the number of the middle term. Okay, in this case it's 10. So when we add these, when you add, they give you a 10. Ne? When you add, then when you subtract, they give you an 8. Okay, so these are the correct terms. So let's do this. When you add this, they give you a 6. Then when you subtract, they give you a 0. So these ones are not the correct terms to use here. These ones are, because when you add 9 and 1, you get 10, which is your middle term. Remember, the factors here, you add or subtract them, you should get the value of the middle term. So it's 9 plus 1. So you allocate here and here. Now to the interesting part. Listen carefully. When you get your trinomial, then the sign of the middle term, if it's a negative, and then the sign of the last term is a positive, it simply means that both these brackets will get a negative sign, meaning this becomes a negative, this also becomes a negative. Always, guys, remember above I said when everything is positive here, then everything here also becomes a positive. Then here, if your middle term has a negative sign, then the last term has a positive sign. If this is negative, then this is positive. Then both your brackets will get a negative sign. Okay, so this is our final answer. We've done factorizing this. If you did not understand, rewind the video a bit where I thoroughly explain it. So remember, we have to prove that we've got the correct value. There are the correct numbers here. So you're going to take it as it is. So it's x minus 9, x minus 1. Okay, then you multiply, you multiply. So x times x is x squared. X times negative 1, it's negative x. Negative 9 negative 9 multiplied by x is minus 9x. Negative 9 multiplied by negative 1 is positive 9. Remember, negative multiplied by negative is positive. So you drop this as it is. These are like terms, so it's minus x minus 9x. It's going to bring you to minus 10x. Then you drop the 9 as it is. So since we've simplified this, it brought us back to the original expression, which means our factorizing or our working was correct. Okay, so now I'll move on to the last example. So remember, guys, middle term, if the sign is negative, then the last term is positive, then everything here becomes a negative. Okay, let me do the last example of this nature. Okay, I want to use different signs here. X squared plus 3x minus 4. Okay, So here, same old, same old. You open two brackets. After you open them, since a here is equals to 1, you simply take your x and your x, xx. Then here we're going to look for factors of 4 that when you add or you subtract, they give you a 3. So we have 4 and 1, 2 and 2. So if you add these, you get a 5. If you subtract, you get a 3. So these ones are correct. So these ones, what about these ones? If you add 2 and 2, you get 4. If you subtract, you get 0. So these are incorrect. These factors are incorrect. These ones are. Remember, we look for factors that when you add or subtract, they give you the value of the middle term. In this case, 4 and 1, they do give us. So it's going to be 4 and it's going to be 1. Okay. Now the crucial part. So here, since the signs are different here, they are swapped around, they are opposite, you are going to give, see, oh, before you assign the signs here, before you give signs to these brackets, you're going to look at the sign of the middle term. It's positive. So what does that mean? It means that the higher value here, the highest value between the two will get that sign, the sign of this one. So in this case, we are going to get, we're going to give this positive here to 4, since 4 is bigger than 1. So this positive comes here, then the negative comes here. It's different signs. Okay? So let me explain it again. After assigning these numbers here, you're going to look at the sign of the middle term. If it's a positive, then you're going to give a positive to the higher number between the two factors that you got there. In this case is 4. Okay, guys? Then that is how you simplify. I'll explain this concept again just now. Okay? Then on your piece of paper, you can kindly simplify this then to see if it's identical to this one or not. Okay? So let me do a vice versa here of what I was saying here. So say minus 3x minus 4. Okay? So you're going to open up two brackets because I want to drill the concept of assigning the signs here. So it's 4 and 1. I can make a separate video also on the signs if you want. Just comment down below. Comment down below, then I'll make it. Drop it down, I promise. So anyway, excuse me. So here, so these factors are the same, right? I just changed the signs here. So remember what I said. To assign the signs here, you're going to look for the value of the middle term. The middle term here is negative. The sign is a negative. Therefore, meaning you're going to assign that negative to the bigger number between the factors that you found here. So since 4 is obviously bigger than 1, which means this 4 is going to get a negative, then this one will get a positive. Okay, guys? The concept of assigning signs is very important, especially in the case of C and D. Because in A and B, it's simple. If everything is positive, then everything becomes positive. Then B, if the middle sign is negative, then the last term is positive. The last term is positive. Then everything here becomes a negative. And I promise you guys, if you practice this, like often you practice, you'll be a master. You will perfect it. So here, same story. And the C, remember what I said here in such cases, in these different cases, what I said, if you look at the sign of the middle term, then you take that sign, you assign it to the bigger number between the factors that you found. Okay, here the English load shedding ESCOM. the sign here was positive. Then the bigger number here in this bracket between 1 and 4, it was obviously 4. So we assigned this positive to a 4 here. Then we did the same thing here. We took the sign of the middle term, we assigned it to the bigger number here, which was 4. So put a negative in front of, before the 4. So the 4 here inherits this sign. Okay, and also guys, if you come across such equations where it's plus minus or minus minus, the signs are always different in your brackets. Okay, alright, I'll also do a separate video to explain this concept further. If you guys didn't understand, I'll drop it soon. Okay, so now let's do when so now we're going to do when a is not equals to 1. What does this mean? It means when my a is a negative, or when my a is greater than 1. What do I mean by this? Let me put one example. Okay, I'm actually gonna do 2 here. And guys, I won't lie, these ones are a bit of a challenge, but like I said, if you practice makes perfect. Actually, I don't like that phrase. It's more like practice improves competency, if that makes sense. So anyway, here you're gonna open up 2 brackets. Ne? So after here, so now since my a is not equal to x, I'm going to open up a little box here. Okay, not necessarily a box. You can make like a sort of like a column where you put your factors of 2x squared, then your factors of 12. Ne? Then 2x squared. Okay, there are only 2 factors here. It's 2x and x. Ne? Those are your factors here. Factors or your factors of 2 if you want to put it that way. So it's 2x and x. Ne? If you multiply these 2, you'll get this. Ne? Remember guys. Then the next example will be more clear on the point I'm trying to raise here. So then for 12 we have 1 multiplied by 12, 2 multiplied by 6, or 6 multiplied by 2, depending on whatever order you want to put them. Then we also have 4 multiplied by 3. Okay, so in this case, let's start, because usually I like to start from this kind here. So I'm going to do a 4x and a 3x. Okay, so now guys, the next step, try to listen carefully because it's also crucial. Ne? It's also crucial. So unlike the previous ones, this one is a bit different. So here, what you're going to do is you're first going to multiply these 2 together. You multiply. Ne? So when I multiply 2x and 4x, we're going to get 8x. You multiply x and 3x, you're going to get you multiply. So you're going to get 3x squared, or it's x squared, whatever you want to put it. So you multiply. So you basically multiply the numbers. Their variables don't really matter that much, but you can somehow put them to make your maths correctly. So you multiply the 2. Then after multiplying the 2, when you add or subtract them, because what you're interested in is the values, not the variables, the values here. So when you add them, they should bring you to the middle term. Okay, so what we did here, remember, say we multiply the 2 and the 4 here, then we multiply the 1 and the 3 here. The variables really don't matter because we are trying to get to this middle term here. Okay, so this is how we got to these numbers. So when you add or subtract them, they should give you a 2. So this, when I add them, they give me 11 when I add, then when I subtract, they give me a 5. So what does this tell me? This tells me that these factors here are incorrect. So I can use another group of factors. Okay? So I'm going to draw up another mini table here. Because since 2x squared has only two factors, which is 2x and x, I'm going to drop it down as it is. Then I'm going to take the 12 again. Then this time I'm going to use 2 and 6. Ne? Okay, right. So now remember, we are interested in the values. The variables, they really don't matter. Oh yeah, by the way, here it was 4 and 3, not 4x and 3x. Okay, it doesn't matter. So here we multiply these two. What do I get? 2 multiplied by 2. Okay, this is separate. Let me try and separate it. This is 2 times 2. What do I get for x? Okay, then x times 6. What do I get? A 6x. So this is like 1 times 6. We're interested in the values. Okay, now when I add these two, what do I get? A 10 when I add these two. Then when I subtract these two, like 6 minus 4, what do I get? A 2x. So this means that these are the factors that I can use for my brackets here. Because when I add my values here, I get the middle term, which is 10. Okay, so in this case, I'm going to bring back the 6x, ne? 6x and 4x. So what did I multiply? 2x, I multiplied by 2. So I'm going to bring it here. Then 6, I'm going to bring it here. Because remember, guys, I multiplied these two and these two. I'm also going to show you a quick way to see if you've placed your vectors correctly or not. Ne? Then when it comes to putting in signs, since it's negative here, remember the rule that I taught you above, that the bigger number you assign it to, you give it that sign, you give it the sign of the middle term. So since here 6 is bigger, I'm going to give the negative here, then I'm going to give this a positive. Okay, guys, so this concept is a little bit difficult to grasp, but if you do the way I showed you, you may it's a bit easier that way. You just draw a mini column, you place your vectors, then you keep trialing and error, like you do a trial and error until you find the correct vectors. Okay, so this is my correct way of factorizing. So like I always say, check your answers. So we're going to prove to see if I've done it correctly or not, to see if I'm a fraud or not. So it's 2x minus 6, it's x plus 2. Okay, because here, guys, you're going to get a different learning experience. I'm very bad at making jokes, but I'll try. So it's 2x multiplied by x, so it's going to give me a 2x squared. Then remember, don't forget, proof. So it's plus 4x minus 6x minus 12. So it's 2x squared. So it's 2x squared. These are your like terms. Then 6 minus 4, take the sign of the bigger number, so it's negative. 2x, you subtract these two, and it's minus 12. So which means I've factorized it correctly. Okay, so the next example, I'm not gonna lie, it'll be a little bit tough. Let me create space. I think I'll need additional space. Let me do it here. So the second example, it will be a bit tough because I'm trying to drill this concept. Like I said, guys, if you didn't understand how to factorize the trinomials, I can do a separate video where I'll try to explain it further. We'll do different examples together. Okay, not together. I'll do different examples, then see if everyone understands or not. Okay, because my aim is to improve your guys' math skills. Okay, I help guys and help those who are struggling. That is my goal here. So oh yeah, I was gonna do this one here. So it's 6x squared. Okay, it's minus 7x minus 20. Okay, right. So here we do the same. We opening up two brackets. Né? Then we go to the left. Oh, no, to the right, sorry. Then we do our little column here. We allocate factors. Okay, remember the factors of 6x, there are two actually. The factors of 6x squared, there's 1 and 6 and also 3 and 2. So okay, for 6x, we have 2, né? We have 1 multiplied by 6, then we have 3 multiplied by 2 or 2 multiplied by 3, whichever you want to put it. Then for 20 we have 1 times 20, 2 times 10, 5 times 4. I think that's yeah, I think that's all. So we have this. Then for 6x we have this. Okay, so for first one, usually, because like I said before, I usually like to start with this kind here, these kinds of factors. So I'm going to start with 3x and 2x. Sorry, it's 3x and 2x. And for 20, I'm going to start with 5 and 4. Okay, remember, first I'm going to multiply going horizontally. So this will give me 15x. This will give me 8x. So what happens here? I then first add these two to see if they give me the middle term or not. So when I add them, it's 15 plus 8. It's going to give me 23x. Then when I subtract them, 15 minus 8, they give me a 7x. This is when I subtract. Then this is when I added them. Give me 7x at 23x. So this means these vectors are correct. These are the correct vectors, guys. Ne? So we move over 3x, 2x, then we have 5 and 4. So remember, so I'm gonna put the 5 here and the 4 here. Oh yeah, I forgot to show you but I'll show you here. Like it's almost like a shortcut, so I'll show you. But you don't have to use it. You can simply play around with these. You can play around with these numbers when you simplify and see if you find the correct, to see if the answer that you simplify here brings you back here or not. You can play around with these numbers. Nah, okay. So here we place this is 3x, 2x, 4, and 5. Then comes to the sign. Remember the sign? We look at the middle term. We assign it to the bigger number here. So the bigger number in this case is 5. So it's negative, these numbers here, then this will get a positive. Okay, so from here, this is done. So now we can simplify this to see if I factorize it correctly or not. Ne? So remember, it should bring me back here. So I'll take 3x plus 4. Okay, let me do this. 3x plus 4, 2x minus 5. Okay, so this will bring me 6x squared. You already know, guys. Yeah, you already know. And it's also mad late. People are sleeping and I'm doing math. What am I doing with my life? Anyways, it's 8x. Then it's minus 20. Okay, so 6x squared. Then you take the sign of the bigger number, which is 15 is minus. Then you minus this, minus 15 plus 8. It's negative 7x. Then the 20. So yeah, there we go, guys. We did factorize correctly using this method. Okay, we were lucky that we got it the first time round. So now, how would you know where to put these numbers here, like the order of these numbers? Because like I said, you can play around with them. Then place a 5. So for example, if I place the 5 here, then the 4 here, I will simply go back here and try to simplify it. Then if I don't get my answers, I'll just go back to my original one, scratch it out, then swap them around. So instead, I'll put a 5 here, then I'll put another 4 here. Okay, so also, the tip I wanted to show you for now. So usually, instead of doing this here, the box thingy, your factors that you allocate now, it should be your outside, your first and outside, and the inner ones. When you multiply, when you multiply your values here and here. So for example, I multiply the 3 and the 5, I get 15x. Then I multiply the inner 2, I get 8x. Then when I add or subtract them, they give me the middle term. You see? So if I add them, I still get that 23x. Then when I subtract, I get 7x. So instead of doing this, you can do this. You can determine your factors. Then after determining your factors, you place them accordingly. Then after placing them here, including the signs, guys, including the signs. After placing them, you multiply the first one from your first bracket and the last one here, as I've shown the lines. You multiply it this way, then you multiply the 2 here. Then when you add or subtract them, they should give you the middle term. So even in the case of using signs, so here, for example, let me scratch it out. Let's say I apply this method. This time I take into account the signs here, So the 3 multiplied and the 5 by the 5 is going to give me minus 15, because now I'm multiplying everything including the sign here. So it's 3x multiplied by the negative 5 is going to give me negative 15x. Then the inner 2, I multiply them together, they give me a positive 8x. Then if I punch this in a calculator or simply minus this, take the sign of the biggest number, which is negative. 15 minus 8 is 7x. So the 7x is my middle term, as you see, guys. So this is another way of getting here quicker. But I'll mostly recommend this one to start with. Just do a bunch of tables, then do the step as I've shown you here until you get to the correct values and the signs. Assign the signs as I've told you above. Or if you think that you can master this quicker, you can also learn it. So remember, you multiply this term, as I've drawn the line here, you multiply those two including the sign, then you multiply the two including the sign, then that is how you'll do it. Okay guys, so yeah, trinomials are a bit tricky to factorize, so if you keep practicing them, you'll be fine. Then the last one, I even forgot which number we're on. I'm just gonna write it down. So there's this concept known as grouping when it comes to factorizing. Grouping, what does this, how do you apply, or how do you apply this to factorizing? This is mostly applied when you have four terms in an expression. Then out of those four terms, two, or let's say a pair of those terms, they share a common factor. What do I mean by this? Let me put it into writing. So for example, I have something like a squared, is it a squared plus a minus 2ab minus 2b. Okay, so in this case I have four terms. Then out of my four terms, I can see that the first two, they have a common factor, and the last two have a common factor. Okay, so grouping simply means that I'll take out a common factor for the first two. So I'll take out common factor, which is a, then I'm going to be left with a plus 1. Remember guys, this is common factor. If you don't understand how I got here, rewind the video, you'll know. So here, this one here, then you say minus, you take out a common factor here again, which is negative 2b. So since 2 is common here, negative 2 is common in both, then b is also common in both terms, so you take that out. Then what are you left with? A plus b. Why is it a plus? Remember guys, when I multiply this, it should bring me back here. So negative 2b multiplied by a is minus 2ab, minus 2b multiplied by b, it's a negative, oh sorry guys, it's supposed to be 1 here, not b. It's supposed to be 1. It's a plus 1. It's a plus 1, because the 2b divided by 2b is equals to 1. Nah? Okay, yeah. So this is the concept of grouping. So since we grouped these two, we took out common factors from each pair. So now here, what do we have? We also have a common factor between these two pairs. Which one is a common factor here? It's a plus 1. So what are we going to do? We're going to take it out. A plus 1. Then we can include another bracket. Bring the a minus 2b. This is what will remain when this common factor is divided by this term and this term. This is what will remain. Okay? So, okay, let me say, instead of writing this down, let me do it step by step. Let me avoid doing this. So let's say I take out a plus 1 as a common factor between the two. So I divide this into a plus 1 divided by a plus 1. This one, eh? These cancel, you're left with a. Okay? So you're going to be left with a. This is multiplication, by the way. You're left with a. Ne? Then we do the same. Remember, this is a negative. Then we do the same here. It's 2b a plus 1 all over a plus 1. So this takes this, we are left with 2b minus 2b. So if you drop it down further, a plus 1, this is the multiplication sign, multiplied by, then you put this together, it's A minus 2B. Simple as that, guys. Simple as that. Oh, my PC is running low. Okay, sorry about that, guys. Let me charge. Okay, sorry about that. So that is how I was able to get to there. That is how I was able to get there. Okay, so I'm sure most of you are asking, okay, what if I decided to group them differently, or can I group them differently instead of the order I found them in? And the answer is yes. What I mean by that, so for example, the same equation, or the same expression, sorry. Okay, let me try rearranging it this way here. So let's say here I have something like a squared. Okay, let me separate this from there. So let's say here I have something like a squared. How can I arrange it? Let's say minus 2ab plus a minus 2b. Okay, so what if I was like, okay, I don't want to group this a squared with this a. I want to group this a squared with this minus 2ab. Will it bring me back here? Well, there's only one way to find out. Let's see. So here, I grouped them differently. So I'm going to take the a out as a common factor. A is common here and here. So I'm going to take out the a. Then I'm going to be left with a here minus, is it a minus 2b? Nah? Then it's, here in this case, it's plus a minus 2b. So here I'm gonna leave it as it is, plus a minus 2b. Okay, I'll leave it as it is. So here, let me drop this down into a minus 2b. Then here I can take out plus 1 as a common factor if I want. So for example, I can say plus, like the 1 here, imagine it, but it's there, 1 plus 1. Then it's a minus 2b. Let me just somehow put it there, a minus 2b. Okay, this is what here I took out plus 1 as a common factor, which really doesn't change a thing, because if I multiply the plus here, it's still gonna bring me back here, so it doesn't really change a thing. This is another way of writing it. Okay, so I taken out positive 1 as a common factor from here. So this simply means now we have a common bracket here, which is a minus 2b. So I'm going to write it down here, a minus 2b into a plus 1, which is the same as here. Remember guys, I took this out as, I took 2ab as a common factor. Then if I divide it the same way as I divided here, it's gonna bring me here. Okay guys, so it really doesn't matter how you group them or the order you group them in, but also it's preferably do not try to rearrange it. Just do it as, like, try grouping it the way it appears on the question paper. That is my advice to you. But if you get confused, or you've given the expression that is not arranged in a correct order, you can arrange it the way you see fit, because at the end it will bring you to the same answer. Okay, but to avoid confusing yourself, try not changing it around. Avoid being dear makal. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, so let me do the last. We ran out of space. So yeah guys, this is what is about under grouping. So anyways, this is the end of the video. Thank you for tuning in and staying long into this video. hopefully you've learned how to factorize. So guys, remember, do not forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Comment down below on how to improve the quality on these videos, and also on the topics that you would like for me to do like in the near future. And you know what, as always, study hard, practice hard, keep at it. You've got this. Try not to stay demotivated, push through, keep practicing, keep working hard, then you'll see the results. You will see the results. Keep watching my videos, and as always, peace.